And we get started here. Welcome everyone to the September Tug Hill Commission meeting. It does look like we have a quorum. Thank you for all joining. I guess Jerry and Roger had doctor's appointments that they were unable to attend. So Jerry might call in if she has a minute, but we do have a quorum. That's great here. You know, looking out my window here, it looks like the weather has changed pretty consistently here over the last 2 weeks. It looks like today's the last day of summer. Tomorrow starts fall. And we've already had 4 nights of frost here in Montague, which is, it's early. But for those of us that are doing our due diligence and trying to cover our plants and our gardens, you may have a reprieve. It looks like it's going to be a good week here, maybe a low of 45 at night here. So weather is truly changing here with the start of fall tomorrow here. For those who have family and friends that are Jewish, I'd like to wish everybody a happy Rosh Hashanah, which was Friday, which leads into 10 days of celebration, which it culminates with the holiest of their holiest holiday, which is Yom Kippur, which is their Day of Atonement. So again, for those that have family or friends that are the Jewish faith, let me see if I get this right here. My aunt used to say Yashamash Yom Kippur. So okay. So also on the marking on a national level, we're marked the passing of jurist Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I've been a big fan of hers since she was appointed by Bill Clinton. I've always enjoyed reading and trying to find her opinions, her written opinions that both for and against, which are always enjoy doing that. And I think she was a great jurist. You know, and in fact, I think most of the female jurists I'm big fans of, which really started with 1981 with the appointment of Sandra Day O'Connor by Ronald Reagan. I think she was a great jurist also. So the only thing I could say at this point is rest in peace, RBG. You know, I did mention that Frontier is doing a lot of work in Montague. I think that's positive. So hopefully we can update that information. I know that you're having weekly or is it monthly conference calls with Bank and the governor's office about internet connectivity across the Tug Hill region. So you know, if there's any way to get a statement from the company Frontier, it'd be great. But they are working hard, and it looks like they are spending money. Not quite sure whose money they're spending. Something tells me it might be grants, but you know. But we are we're on our way. Also, as per our bylaws.
Jan, before you get to business,
Yeah.
do you want to approve the agenda and the minutes, just so we don't forget those things?
Oh, sure. Hopefully everybody did get the proposed agenda for today, and also the minutes from our June 15th meeting. If any concerns, any comments about the agenda? If not, do I have a motion to accept?
I'll move.
The agenda.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Also, the June 15th minutes, I think we did receive them. Thank you, Katie, for sending them out on the 3rd, on the 2nd. Any comments, any questions on that? If not, do I have a motion to accept the board minutes of the June 15th meeting?
Second.
Who made the, okay,
I
all
did.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Also, as by our bylaws, we have election of officers for our upcoming 21 and 22 season, I guess. With that, we will need to, create a duly designated organizational meeting for that purpose. And then also we'll need to appoint a nominating committee to oversee that. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to designate our December 14th commission meeting in Watershed, God willing, as a organizational meeting for the purpose of electing our new officers, and that would be our vice chair and our secretary for the 2022 term. Also, I know what I'd like to do is we'd like to officially create a nominating committee, which at that December 14th meeting would present with a slate of candidates, which I think what we really need to do is, if I remember right, we'll have to present those slate of candidates on the October 19th meeting. Is that correct, Katie?
Correct.
And then ultimately we would decide on our new officers at the December 14th meeting. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to kind of keep it the same. 2 years ago, our nominating committee was Tom, was Leona, and it was Jerry. And of course, Jerry's not on the meeting today, but I could reach out to her. Would Tom and Leona, would you be willing to serve again?
Yeah.
Leona, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Sorry. I will.
Okay. Barring any catastrophes with Jerry, which I don't think so, I would like to put that together in a form of a resolution. Do I have a motion to accept that?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That sounds unanimous. Okay, good, thanks. Katie, you want to jump right into the executive director's report?
Sure. Thanks, Jan. I apologize for all the items I was sending out on email. We have many PDFs, but it seemed to be the best way to get you all the materials. So if you have any questions or if you don't have it in front of you, I can share those items on the screen. It minimizes everyone's faces quite a bit. So unless we need to, I won't. So just holler if you want me to share it. Operations overview. So we continue to be at 50% capacity in the office, 50% at home. We haven't had a change to our return to work plan at this point. I have to continue to report to the governor's office every week how many people we have working completely remotely, how many people are half in the office, half at home, and how many people are fully in the office. I have requested a modification to the plan to allow us to have more than one individual in a state vehicle at a time. Right now we are limited to one at a time. That's kind of putting a kink in and getting out to do some field. Usually we do a couple staff field trips. It gets quite expensive when you have to pay mileage to several staff because we're all individually traveling. So I've asked for a modification if everyone in the vehicle wore masks, if that would be okay. I've also asked to have our capacity increased to 75% in the office. That would give us the ability to have 8 people in at a time. Not that I expect that will happen regularly, but we are finding situations where, certain people are already in, somebody else needs to stop by and print something. Someone else might be doing a Zoom meeting and would rather do it in the office because the internet is more reliable. And it's just becoming a lot of juggling and checking. And so if we had a little bit more flexibility, it would be helpful. I believe we can do it safely since we, for the most part, have individual offices, except with Gwen, we've put the sneeze guards up for her. I think people have been very good about wearing their masks in the office. We've had, I don't believe, any issues that I'm aware of. So I have asked for those modifications. I haven't got them approved yet. There has to go through the whole chain of command again, which is the governor's office, council. So we shall see. We were hoping to do a staff field trip on October 1st to kind of the Oswego County area, but unless we can get that vehicle limit raised, it's going to be tough. So we shall see. As far as the budget, we've had no more budget bulletins come from DOB yet. We've been kind of, like everyone else, waiting to see what next steps are going to be taken to overcome the, I think 14 billion is the last number, budget deficit. As we are all aware, there's been no action from the federal government on another stimulus bill that includes any kind of allocation for states. I think that was kind of what people were hoping for. I did hear, I think over the weekend, there's a middle ground proposal that might be getting some traction, but I don't know if it's anything's really going to happen before the after election. So we just kind of keep doing our best to watch our expenses very carefully, and until we get more guidance, that's kind of the status quo. Obviously no word on hiring or anything like that. I can't remember if I sent you this one item, GIS policies, processes and procedures. It's kind of an internal document that we've been working on since actually probably a little bit pre-COVID, but really during COVID allowed us to spend a little bit more time on it. It's kind of outlining what we're doing in the office to make sure that all the GIS stuff isn't still landing on Mickey, because some of that was legacy, as the GIS specialist, and as you switch to RACOG, it's hard to not you're so used to going to Mickey for stuff. We're trying to make sure he doesn't have that, burden on him, although he really does still, I think, and Mickey, you can chime in, I'm speaking for you. I think he really does still enjoy the GIS and wants to be part of that. So we worked on a document to kind of describe the current GIS system. It hadn't been updated since 2008. So a lot has changed in over a decade on the way we do GIS in the office. And it also talks about how we're divvying up the responsibilities and the workload a little bit more. So I just wanted to basically point that out to everyone, because it's very technical, but it also does describe how we've switched from the Esri model of GIS to the QGIS, which has really allowed us to save a lot of money in licensing and that kind of thing, and it has really not affected our ability to make maps. We also have such an online component now. We have these individualized maps for communities that is pretty good, pretty neat to see, and I think will probably continue to grow into the future as more communities are getting up, developing the ability to really use it to its full potential. Mickey, did you want to speak up for anything I said out of turn?
No, I thought you covered it well.
Thanks. So that was a GIS team effort, Mickey, Elena, Jen, Matt, and myself as the primary GIS users in the office. I also I know I sent this one out, the IT policy. That's another policy document that we have not had before. And especially with this virtual environment that we're all working in post-COVID, we really felt like it was important to have a policy on the books and approved by the commissioner. So I am looking for potentially approval today on the IT policy. It's something we borrowed from other organizations that have policies in place. We had Lee take a look at a fairly late draft version of the policy. It was Jean, Matt, Felicia, and myself that worked on that. And it really kind of, I actually might share that just because I am asking for approval, and hopefully I can find it. 1 second while I share my screen. So can you all see that? Okay. So it really kind of talks about security items, worried about passwords and making sure we're not getting infected by viruses. As we see things happen to other colleagues and other organizations, it scares us, and we want to limit our risk really with that, because again, now all of our stuff is on the cloud, and you become a little bit more vulnerable with that system in place. We also wanted it to be really clear for employees as they come on what we're providing them with, a computer, an email address, with passwords that they need to protect. just to remind people how the process of, if you have problems, going to the administrative person responsible, who is really Felicia, is our first line of attack on trying to solve problems, and then we bring in our consultant as necessary. It talks about, so a lot about email and what you can and can't use your email for. A lot of this is very common sense, but we just never had it in one spot with a document we can hand to somebody, especially if a new person coming on board, to explain what our requirements are. So we talk about email, we talk about voicemail. Here we talk about, limited personal acceptable use of phones and computers, incidental kind of use, how to get stuff fixed, then about the antivirus and malware, making sure we're being safe. And that's pretty much it. It's not really too onerous. We kind of try to keep it short and sweet so someone would actually read it. I would invite Jean, Felicia, anything else to add on that?
I think you covered it all, Katie.
Okay, thank you. So any questions from commissioners? If not, I would maybe welcome an approval of that.
I
Make a motion to accept it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So passed.
Thank you. A couple other administrative items. We're all very aware of the Climate Act that the state passed about a year ago, and work is actually starting to happen on that pretty heavily now. The Climate Action Council that was set up by the Climate Act also set up a series of advisory panels on different topic areas. I have been named to the Land Use and Local Government Advisory Panel. So I will be sitting, I think there's about maybe 10 other people across the state that will be kind of informing the plan from the land use and local government perspective. I thought it was important that we have an upstate voice. A lot of this is being driven by downstate and Albany folks. We've had so much on the ground experience with communities dealing with siting of wind and solar facilities that I feel like we have a lot to add to the discussion, and it'll be a good place for us to share our experience and make sure there's some ground truthing maybe to what's coming out of that advisory panel. Our first meeting is Thursday, so I'll have more information about it after Thursday. I've already had some press inquiries. It's gonna be a big deal, some of what's going to come out of that, and so it'll be interesting, and I will share information. And if you ever want any more detailed information, let me know. And then related to that, just last week, the Office of Renewable Energy Siting, which was also formed at the end of last fiscal year as part of the state budget, now has regs out, draft regs, and there are like 111 pages of regs, and I've not read them all yet, but I have actually there was a very good summary article by Hodgson and Russ. They're an attorney group. They've got offices across the state. We've used some of their staff for some trainings, and we had some of their staff on the LGC workshop calendar last year, which of course didn't happen, but they're very in the know on renewable energy, and they have a very good top 10 things to know about these new regs that I skimmed this morning. I can send the link out to you all later, and I will put an article in Untitled Times this week about this, but that's going to affect, I'm looking at you all, I'm looking at Mike in Redfield, I'm looking at Tom in Watertown, you're all having, and Bill and Parrish, you guys have a moratorium right now, so this is going to affect a lot of communities with proposals on the books. Some of the highlights in this article I read this morning is it's going to require, as proposed, the regs require early stage wetland delineation. Some of that would happen later, I think, in the process under the current Article 10 standards. It looks like it's kind of backing off on the ambient noise study requirements, which I know has been a hot button. I know Mike's shaking his head. Hot button in some communities. What I'm reading is that wind facilities must comply with a maximum noise limit of 45 dBA outside of a non-participating residence and 55 dBA outside a participating residence that exists when the permit is issued. So those might be at odds with some of our communities' local requirements. There's a requirement to.
So Katie,
Oh, go ahead.
okay, I just want to be clear on this then. So we are currently still, what applies is Article 10 on any
Correct.
new proposed. And what the new regulations are basically what was voted on as part of the April budget, which was the, what was that called? The Community Benefits Act, I guess it was called. So what they're proposing is,
Yep.
okay, so what they're,
Renewable Energy Act, Benefit Act. No benefit.
okay. So what's the guidelines here? This has to be passed. Again, they set the structure up, so this has to be voted on in the legislature, correct?
Well, I'm not sure it has to be voted on by the legislature again. They had a year from the date of the formation or from the passage of the bill, which was I think April 2nd, to put into place the regs. So I don't believe it has a legislative requirement again. This is just a regulatory process now.
Katie?
So as part of this regulatory process, that they're going to have public hearings then?
Correct. And Lee, did you want to say something?
Okay.
No, I was just going to confirm after the public hearings and the comment period, it's up to the agency to adopt. There's no trip back to the legislature.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is a big deal.
Can you
like
forward
said,
anything you get, Katie? Can you forward it to can you forward that, anything you get on that to us?
Absolutely.
Katie, can I
Go ahead, Lee.
point out one other thing?
Mm-hmm.
Developers do have the choice to opt out of Article 10 and into this process.
Right. Exactly.
So it's a real gimme for them.
Tell you one thing, 55 decibels is extremely high, so is 45. Of course, that's one of the sticking points with the process in my town, and totally it's really bad. I'm certainly not happy with it at all. It was jammed through here, and with no regards to the local residents, basically. If you don't like it, tough. That's how it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the commentary I read so far, there's some things in here that municipalities aren't going to like, and there's also some things that developers aren't going to like. So I don't think it's a total gimme to the developers, but it does seem, they're trying to move these fast. Article 10 projects have taken forever. So you're trying to figure out a way to make these be fairly good projects that don't take forever to happen.
I say it'll try to eliminate the home rule aspect of the whole process, what it is. They're trying to take the home rule decisions away from the localities. And that's what they've successfully done here.
For Lewis County has been really looking hard on the ag lands and the impacts on, highly productive, active ag lands and the solar projects that are being proposed. So in here, there is a thing about ag mitigation. It's going to limit impacts to active agricultural lands within specified soil classes. And it also says that there is this process, 94C is what it's called, is going to effectively subsume the notice of intent process under Ag and Markets Law Section 305. So there's a lot to take in. And so I will send more information out to you. The closest in-person public hearing is in Clayton, which isn't too far. I'm glad to see they have one north of the Thruway. And then there's a couple virtual opportunities to join in the public hearing. So this is something we're definitely going to want to track. We put a Tug Hill Info Friday out last Friday with this information in it because I know it's going to be of interest. And with public hearings in November, I think the end of the public comment period is the beginning of December. It's going to be moving quickly. So stay tuned. I will get you out more information, and I'm sure we'll be discussing this probably at our upcoming next few commission meetings. So, shifting gears to regional projects, the Lorraine Worth Court consolidation legislation has not yet been delivered to the governor. It has been passed by the Assembly and Senate, but has not been delivered yet for his consideration. Lorraine and Worth have both approved sending letters to the governor's office to, support his signing of this legislation once it's delivered to him. And CTHC meets Tuesday night, and I'm guessing they also may do a similar letter. We don't anticipate any problems with this. Interestingly enough, as Angie was putting together the letters for Lorraine and Worth, there was another local piece of legislation that was passed this session for the same exact section of law for two towns in Chautauqua County. And that bill was actually already delivered to the governor and signed. So it's good to point to that. That'll remind everyone at play that this is not a controversial thing. This is something that's supported locally, but we're just going to keep track of it, because if it doesn't get signed by the end of the year, it starts all over again, because this is the end of session. The 2-year session is the end of 2020, and we would hate to have to mess up the whole time frame by having to reintroduce a bill come 2021. So one of the things out of the retreat last month, which was awesome to see everybody, Bill, I think particularly had pointed out maybe the need for a new FAQ talking about COVID and where we're at with COVID and what communities need to be considering. So several of us worked on a new handout FAQ, which is available on the website. It's changing every day. Like the one I sent you on Thursday changed on Friday because we had Association of Towns take a look at what we had put together. Lori Mithen pointed me to something that NYCOM had just put out. There's some controversy and over whether this public hearing requirement and the need to do a virtual component of public hearings really applies or not. You read the executive orders, this seems to still be required, but NYCOM and their conversations with the governor's office indicate that it is not meant to still be required that every public hearing have a virtual component. So it's a big deal because we have lots of towns with budget hearings coming up, not to mention the other kind of public hearings we have. So the FAQ talks about the whole thing, and we are just kind of recommending to err on the side of caution. Communities may still want to offer that public component, but there's some question as to its requirement. And Lee, if you have anything else to say about that, I'd be happy to hear your take on it, but we were kind of caught in the middle of things with that. So take a look at that FAQ. If there's other questions that you think we haven't addressed in there properly, or just ones that we weren't aware of, please let us know.
The one thing I definitely agree with you right now is it changes by the minute. And it's very hard to keep track. And when you've got EDC being the lead agency on some of this stuff, that's an interesting mix. But I'm happy to look at it.
Yeah, it's on the website. We're dating it. We're dating each version, so someone knows when the last time we looked at it is.
I appreciate you doing it, and it looks very good to me. But as has been said, as we both know, it changes by the day according to interpretation of who's interpreting it. So, but it's a great guideline, I think.
Thanks, Bill. So what else do we have here? Okay, upcoming training and webinars. So we're still in the webinar business, that's for sure. And poor Jen is going to really get a workout this month and next, as she's going to be the one kind of hosting all the background of them. I sent some press releases out so you could all see what we're putting out there. we're very excited about the Constable Chronicles. That's going to be a fun one, and it seems to be getting a lot of interest because Jen gave me some numbers this morning, and so far we have 60 people signed up for that webinar, which is a pretty good number. And there will be additional webinars monthly through December, kind of wrapping up with I think a reading of The Night Before Christmas. I'm probably letting the cat out of the bag, but
I don't know if it's going to happen or not. We were talking about that on Friday, so kind of keep that under your head. I know it went out a press release, but then they kind of backtracked. So we'll talk later about it, but yeah.
Either way, they're going to be fun, and they're going to be short, an hour, and that seems to be being popular. We've got the virtual Black River Watershed Conference, which starts, I think, is it next week, with Emily's presentation about the 10-year look back of what kind of progress we've made. And it surprised us when we did, when Emily started putting that together. There's been a lot of progress made. It's incremental, every year stuff happens, but then when you stop and start adding things up, there's been a lot of activity, a lot of money spent. So that should be fun. And there's a report out about that under our banner that is kind of a joint with the DEC, and I would encourage you to take a look at that. The sessions for the conference, there's a mixed number of people coming to different ones. I think 28 is our high. I think we're just, we're trying to get the word out. People like webinars, but they're webinared out. It's not like coming to a conference and being able to interact with people. I mean, usually the Black River Watershed Conference, we'd have 75 people attending, but we're doing the best we can and offering it for people, and it's up to them whether they partake. And as far as the planning and zoning board trainings, we're trying something new this fall as well, trying to do some hybrid training opportunities rather than all purely webinar, as we have heard from our locals that they'd like to see some in-person options. So on the 29th, Matt is giving a presentation about zoning laws and taking a look at them. And he's got a pretty good number, 11 coming in person and 28 via Zoom. So that's going to be interesting. It's kind of they'll be our first one of these. So we've been working on how does that work? Because Matt will be, in person with a live audience. Yeah, you'll have the Zoom component. We think we got it worked out. Hopefully, I'm sure there'll be a few kinks that night, but it'll be good. And then we've got some attorneys lined up for some additional planning and zoning board trainings. So, take a look at those. Are on our website. You've got the press release as well. We'd like to see, lots of people come into those if possible.
Katie.
Yeah.
Tell Matt to talk to some teachers. They could tell him a lot.
I know. I was thinking about that as we struggled with the idea of a 2-hour webinar, and they're doing that every day, teaching an in-person class and some kids on hybrid Zooms. And
yep,
I'm sure Jackie could tell us.
Oh, it's crazy. And music is even worse because they can't sing.
Oh,
That's awful.
So everybody has to do a solo, right?
Well, they can't sing.
Yeah,
in the classroom, they cannot sing.
I see what you're saying.
Either got to go outdoors or into the commons area, and it can only be so many kids. So that's crazy. So they might be able to give him some advice.
I'll pass that on to Matt. Matt's not able to join us this morning. He finally got free to go to Maryland and visit his mom. Maryland kept going on and off the quarantine list, and he hadn't seen her in months, so they're off the list. So he shot down this weekend. Good for him. Broadband, we've been, the meeting started with good news from Montague and good news from Osceola and even Redfield on things being improved. And we've been working on this with a renewed effort since COVID. Carla and Elena have really been the lead on it. We're finally making traction, I feel, after many, many phone calls and meetings and trying to wrangle people and bring them along. And I'm going to share, actually, I need to pull up another thing here just to show you an image that kind of demonstrates what we're doing. But Lewis County at their legislative meeting at the beginning of the month approved a resolution paying for half of the cost of an analysis along with the development authority to do on the ground field work throughout the county, plus some surveying of people to get a handle on who's unserved and underserved in Lewis County, which is obviously a moving target as things are being built out. Let me just show you. Here's a graphic. I don't remember if I've shown this to you before, but this is kind of what we've been trying to do. The green is the development authority, 3 counties. The blue is the area that is served by the Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board. The hatch are our 4 counties, and you can see Oneida isn't covered, which has been something we've been trying to overcome. The main thrust of this has been getting a private company on board to do the driving of the roads, to see what's actually out there, to give us better information than we have available to us right now. The Broadband Program Office, the federal, FCC, whoever, the data is not really accurate just because of how it was collected. If one household in a census block group has good internet, the whole census block group would be counted. This is going to get granular data, unserved, underserved, so we can really determine where the problem areas are, because we all know that they still exist. If you have a kid in school or a teacher, they're struggling with this right now. So during the course of all these conversations, Dave Botar is the executive director of Central New York Regional Planning. He, all the economic development districts, he is one of many across the state and the country, got money from the CARES Act that they could do kind of some broad things, that anything COVID related, they kind of had some flexibility to program their money to do. And he has opted to do a broadband analysis like I just described for 4 of his counties, Oswego, Onondaga, Cayuga, and Cortland. Madison having already done it last year, and they have a pending Reconnect grant application that they're hoping to hear on any day for implementation funds to fill in the holes in Madison County. So our goal is to get everybody in this geography ready to do the same thing. We're hearing that there's going to be another Reconnect round in the second quarter of fiscal year 21 that we would all like to be going after. And we think there would be decent amount of money in that pot. And we think that regional may be more competitive than individual county applications. So Oswego gets covered by Central New York Regional Planning, all good. However, there's no economic development district that covers the North Country. And so we've been kind of left out of this, this CARES Act funding, hence the Development Authority going to counties, offering up to pay half of the cost and asking them to pay half, which is a big leap right now with county budgets being kind of in disarray. However, Lewis County has agreed. Jefferson County, still working on them. St. Lawrence County, we're not as concerned about. Obviously, it's not a Tug Hill County, but we think it could make a broad Reconnect grant more competitive, because you get more points for farms, you get more points for Indian nations, and you got a lot of that in St. Lawrence County. Oneida County has been the hurdle we just overcame, I think, on Friday. Mohawk Valley EDD, again, got that CARES Act funding, but they had really not thought about using it for broadband analysis. And so we've been talking to Steve Smith, the executive director there, on and off. We've been tag teaming who calls him to try to convince him that this was a big need. And then we've also been working with Oneida County to try to convince them that they wanted to be part of this as well. And so Friday, we just found out that Mohawk Valley can take a portion of their CARES Act money, sub-grant it to the Central New York Regional Planning Development Board. So that means they give Central New York the money, but Central New York takes care of all the contracting and working with the consultant, because one of the limitations with Mohawk Valley EDD is they have very little staff. And so it's hard for them to do anything that requires a lot of hands-on work. So I haven't updated this map yet, but we need to fill in Oneida with a color, and they're going to be included. So we're making progress. Jeff County, we still need to figure out how to get them able to pay the half of their project with DINK. So a lot going on with that. It's very exciting. It's got, I think, really big implications for the region if we can keep it together and keep it all kind of on the same timeline, because if things get disjointed, that's going to affect a possible grant application in the spring. Carla, what did I miss?
No, that sounds good. There's a survey component along with the inventory that the consultant would do, and that might be met with, well, the consultant might do it. Lewis County is talking about JCC doing theirs. We might be assisting in some way with the other counties, so that will be fleshed out. But as soon as we get a plan for that, and with hopes of keeping it consistent among the counties, so when we go after this funding, it makes sense. We'll be doing a big push and lots of press and just trying to get this completed by as many people as possible. And so we inventory what's out there, but then we survey households to really see how we can overlay the folks who have the need with the unserved and underserved. So that would be what we would be making a case for in the reconnect first. So
and there's an element of this of cost too, right, Carla? Like, we need to make sure households can afford whatever gets offered to them.
Right.
So any questions on that? I've been taking notes as you guys have been sharing what's going on, so we can push that back out, because that'll be helpful, I think, when they get out on the ground, to know that Osceola just had a bunch of stuff done. Montague's got this. I mean, they'll see it probably for themselves. I mean, they're experts. They'll see it on the polls, but I think it would help if we can front load them with it, whatever information we can.
Katie, there are still people in Osceola who it looks like are not going to have service very, very quickly. And there is a concern about them not being able to afford it, even if it comes. So it's an issue. I mean, and they're kids that come in the library. I have, they come in the library and that's the only internet they have, so.
Thanks for confirming that, because it is good to hear the good news, but we feel like there's still holes, and it's, I mean, it's not good that there's holes, but it's good that you're confirming that for us, so thank you. So with that, I would transition to Cog Reports unless anyone has any questions for me or something I didn't cover. All right, I think I don't want to give the Cog Reports. We've got lots of circuit riders or quasi circuit riders, as Jean is, on the call, so.
Who wants to start?
I can go first. I am still trying to keep NOCOG afloat. We had an executive board meeting via Zoom not last week, but the week before. All sorts of good stuff happening. I don't know if I told you before, but there is no annual NOCOG meeting this year. However, they do they do conduct business at their annual meeting. So we'll be sending out a mailing of the chairman's report, the annual or the 2021 budget, proposed budget, some changes to the bylaws that they made, and a ballot for voting on their officers. That's going out this week. Unfortunately, nothing in person. Hoping to do that next year. Harlan has indicated that he is not going to renew his contract in January. So we've been kind of hedging our bets to try and get another circuit rider on, an associate circuit rider on board. One of the candidates that we had interviewed back in March or April for the full-time circuit rider was Lisa Bellinger. He was really neck and neck with John Hill. So we reached out to her to see if she might be interested in being an associate circuit rider, because she did serve on the Village of Boonville board. She knows of NOCOG, or of the Tug Hill Commission, knows of NOCOG and what they do, and she said yes. So in August and September, she went to several meetings with Harlan and John just to see what they did, to find out what was going on. And starting in October, the board approved of a 3-month contract with Lisa for September, October, and November. October, November, December. Once the first of the year rolls around, we'll put out a full contract. We'll sign a full contract with her for 2021. We're looking for another circuit rider, associate circuit rider, so that when Harlan is no longer the associate circuit rider down there, we'll still have 3. So that when we can hire John full time, he'll have 2. It's kind of like juggling right now, trying to figure out how to do all this. But we do have another associate in mind. We need to do some. I need to get back to the board and see what their pleasure is as far as hiring that person. But that person wouldn't start until after the first year when Harlan is done with his contracts. NOCOG, I guess it was in August, we did find someone that was interested in doing the GPS work. Mark Clark is a friend of Bob Sowers, and he lives in Camden. He's a retired gentleman who did computer work, and he was interested in this part-time work. So Mickey was able to show him how to use the unit. We have quite a few NOCOG communities on the list that would like some work done in their communities on GPS. He's working with the village of Camden and the town of Annsville. I know the village of Sylvan Beach, the town of Trenton are also interested. So Mark is going to be doing this on a part-time basis. It's a seasonal worker. He'll be a seasonal worker that will be paid by NOCOG through the town of Trenton. Talk about a workaround. He is not a commission employee. He's actually a NOCOG employee through the town of Trenton, if you can follow that. Hopefully he'll be able to do some work before the snow flies. I think October, the rest of September, October are pretty good. November could be iffy, although still not a bad time to be out there doing some field work. Other than that, we've been working hard to cover all of the NOCOG's board meetings. Harlan has done a yeoman's work on covering them. Jen's covered some, I've covered some, Katie's covered some. So I know there's concerned that without a full-time circuit rider, a no cog is not being covered, but we're working hard to do that. Because of COVID, the executive board did approve a reduced membership fee for next year. That will be in the letter, in the chairman's letter to the members. It's going from $1,000 to $500, so there'll be a savings there for their membership. Katie, did I miss anything? I can't remember.
Nope, I think you got it all. Thanks, Jean.
Yep.
Who's next?
Katie, I just saw Leona's comment. You know Mark? Leona?
Leona, you're muted.
You're muted, Leona.
Oh, you're still muted.
Oh, there's Joe's.
Yes, I know Mark. Yes, he's a very good guy, great guy.
Awesome.
He should be excellent.
Yeah.
I usually can talk anytime I want to, you know.
I know. The nice thing about Mark, we originally set up the GPS. We're thinking that the GPS would be a student intern, but the nice thing about Mark is that he's retired. He can do it anytime he wants. He's in the community, so I think it'll make for a nice work, nice situation for NOCOG.
And he's a good member of the New York State Old Time Fiddlers as well.
No kidding. Awesome. That's all I have. Thank you.
Angie, you want to go next?
Sure. I'll turn my face back on so you can see me while I'm talking. We've got, as usual, quite a bit going on, even in these times. We have several towns that are working on either water or sewer improvements. Town of Adams is working on a water line extension. Martinsburg is working on water and sewer. Castleville is working on sewer. We also have some towns that are working on zoning amendments. The town of Boylston's working on wind and solar changes to their zoning. Also working on some subdivision amendments. Town of West Turin is working on seasonal use zoning, and so is the town of Martinsburg. So the Boylston's also working on a local law so that they can appoint out-of-town people for their appointed positions. So they'll have a public hearing coming up on that shortly. We had 3 towns that were working on salt shed projects. The town of Florence and the town of Williamstown both have their buildings up. So they're just finishing out the grants. The town of Lewis, which was awarded the year before the other 2, is still in the process. They just had to apply for an extension. So they're to the point finally of getting ready to bid once they get their extension approved from DEC. The town of Leiden has had some people asking to join one of their water districts. They have actually got for their outside users. So that process is going through. So they'll have a public hearing coming up shortly. The town of Martinsburg's town justice, Kevin McCardle, has recently resigned. I think they're going to appoint the current court clerk, but they haven't done it yet. Montague has been talking to their state legislators and federal to try and find out if they can get some funding for hosting the Doppler radar because they can't get wind towers into their town. At their last meeting, they hadn't heard back from anybody, but they have talked to all their various representatives about that. Town of Osceola has had their planning board chair resign. They've appointed a new chair and should be having a new member appointed shortly. So Matt's going to do some in-person training for them in October to try and get them back up to speed. My big news is the town of Pinckney, which is my last of my original 16 towns that hadn't approved the update to their special areas map, We took another crack at them and actually have them moving through the process. Yeehaw. Their public hearing on the special areas map is in October, set for October. We've also been talking to them about the mini plans that one of our interns did for all of our CTH towns a few years ago. So they are moving through that process, and we also are having them reapprove their official highway map after the DOT went around to all our counties and redid their official maps. So, and this time we want to make sure that the official highway maps are filed appropriately. I don't think a lot of them last time got filed with the county. So Pinckney, very busy. Elena and I have been there several months in a row. What else is going on? Redfield is this summer, the reservoir was a total disaster. So Redfield, their county legislator, Mr. Yurden, has been talking to several people about what the DEC can do to try and start enforcing some rules of any kind there. It was like the Wild West this summer. What else is going on? The town of Turin, the brick block building, which is on the corner there, the main drag and turn on the corner of Main Street and County Route 26. They have been trying to get something done with that building for a long time. It's a very strange situation. The building has 4 different owners. There's like 4 different tax parcels enclosed in the same building somehow. In any case, they've been working with the county. I think the county is going to end up taking the building by eminent domain. And the village and town are working to get some quotes for demolition. The building is falling in, so obviously they want it down before it falls in on somebody's head. What else is going on? Let's see. One of West Turin's board members recently passed away, Bob Cummins. I don't know if anybody knows him. So they have appointed a new person who was on their zoning board of appeals to take his spot, which leaves them with a vacancy on the ZBA. They had an existing ZBA vacancy, so they are looking at a local law to lower the number of people on their zoning board of appeals. So we're trying to help them through that process. Town of Worth is looking to hire an engineer to build a new municipal facility. They have a really, really big fund balance that has been saved for that purpose. Not correctly, but with the new regime there in Worth, they're trying to get things straightened around to get the started on a municipal building. They also has had some chat at their meetings about doing some amendments to their wind law. We'll see what happens there. And I think that's all I have, unless anybody's got any questions.
Nikki, you want to go next?
Sure. Here, I'll start. Don't mind the hoodie. I'm down in the basement. I'm freezing because they left the window open. One of the kids left the window open down here this morning. So currently, probably the biggest project's the LED lighting right now. That's taken up a lot of time. We had 15 participants that were part of that project. Started with 16. One dropped out shortly after the grant. We had 15 participants. We're now into doing all the individual meetings, so the 90% design is done. So we're now in the process of having NYPA doing all their individual meetings with each municipality. As of today, Town of Champion has dropped out. They actually didn't even sit on their individual meeting. They decided once they got their design that at 90% that was good enough for them to make their decision, so they opted out. But Wilna and West Carthage have already approved moving forward with the project. And we'll be seeing, I'm expecting some others are also going to follow suit. I know Carla's been involved also, and Katie's been involved in a lot of the discussions and stuff for this project. A lot going on with it. a lot of communication issues too. I think we ran into with NYPA, communicating things to communities, and just change over to the original project manager we had. She got appointed to a temporary commission for the governor's office, so she's no longer on this project. And so I think some of that changeover happening right in the middle stream kind of broke that chain of communication. So I think we're kind of getting back on track now. It looks like the project's at least starting to move forward, just starting to explain. But basically, long story short, the NYPA cost came back higher for their buyback. So National Grid put kind of a halt on going through with the project until they could relook at their formulas. And when they relooked at the formulas and stuff, basically what came around is that they felt that they were undercharging the communities. So most all the communities, their prices now have gone up for the buyback, anywhere from 50 to 700%. But the other thing too was the construction costs also went up pretty significantly too. And so some of that was related to communities adding lighting that originally wasn't part of the project. So we are now getting, like I said, I think kind of getting there. They're explaining things where the costs went up, costs went down, which wasn't too many places. Mostly costs went up, but they're at least explaining item by item to the communities what it is, what's realistic. The other thing is they use a very conservative interest rate of 4%, which of course pushed the payback way out and made it look worse than probably what it will be in the end. They also have a lot of contingencies built into the project, so make sure that there's no cost overruns, so they don't have to go back to a community and ask them for more money. So, you know, they kind of gave them Armageddon type scenario for the project, but at the same time, for some communities, they're looking at it going, well, I'm going to be 20 years and I'm going to lose, you know, $300 to $800 a year while I'm paying off that loan. It doesn't make sense. So we kind of went through numbers with them, some more realistic numbers, and you know, now communities are like, oh, okay, that makes a little bit more sense now on moving forward. You know, the benefit is that they get ownership of their lights from National Grid, which will give them options to put sensors on there, and there's all kinds of sensors from air quality to video cameras to, you know, flood detection, pavement detection, whether there's icy road conditions, all kinds of stuff that they could choose from.
Noise.
Oh yeah, and noise levels too. And there's a whole list. And NYPA does give them a $20,000 grant with no match to go towards the smart city technology also on top of that. So, and then we also got the local government efficiency grant for the asset management control system for the lighting for the community. So they get quite a bit back in their in the process here. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're wrapping up individual meetings this week. We're going to have a group meeting tomorrow of all the communities. This was Wayne McElroy, the president, you know, / mayor there for Carthage. He wanted to get all the communities together and see their approach. I am expecting Village of Lowell and Town of Martinsburg to probably most likely move this project forward because they had the best payback of probably any of the communities. So there's this definitely financially looks really good for them. I kind of expect Alliance Falls, judging by our conversations with her, to kind of move forward too. I expect Village of Carthage to move forward, but with maybe some changes to their designs and replacing some of their decorative lighting. And so at this point, actually, I think Copenhagen will probably also potentially go. I'm not sure about Casterland. They're kind of up in the air, but they're a smaller community. So, and I believe Deer Ferry most likely will move forward too. So anyways, when we get around there, I believe there'll be a decent group of communities still moving forward with this project. Other than that, so I just wanted to mention that our next RACOG board meeting is going to be October. It'll be the third Tuesday there in October. We skipped this month because of the LED group lighting meeting that's tomorrow night at 6 over in West Carthage. And then we're gonna also probably be covering a little bit that meeting. I'm hoping to have the resource management plan, the executive summary that the Fort Drum intern was working on all ready for the group to look at that meeting. And at that meeting, we'll discuss some of these projects we had to put on hold because of COVID-19 and see which ones they want me to get back on and start working on again. The complete streets that, you know, affected a couple of my communities. I know Gene and I will be reaching back out to BOCES when we had discussions in June. It sounded like they're all on board to move forward with some of these projects for the communities. They were just waiting to see what's going to happen, but BOCES does have students at their site. And so we're actually hoping that the boardwalk for Carthage might be going in this fall. And having the students building that, and they'll start doing the metal benches for the ferry, finishing those up. And Copenhagen had quite a few things on their list too. So we'll be reaching out to them to kind of touch base. And then just mentioned the Village of Lowell, Town of Lowell, they started a comp plan. I know Matt and Elena have been working with them and getting ready to start the process with that. And Zoom meetings, I know there's still quite a few of those going on with RACOG. Actually, some of my communities are actually holding in-person meetings, but also wanting to offer the Zoom option also to the public. So right now, if I go to a meeting in person, then program staff, Katie and Jean and a lot of others, Elena, basically everybody at the office, I know Felicia's even covered meeting for me, are starting to kind of help cover some of those meetings too. And now we're starting to switch. So any of the planning board meetings will be going to like Elena and Matt to kind of cover for those communities. So I do have a lot of Zoom meetings going on besides the LED lighting meetings. So we're kind of divvying all that out. So that's, one other, two side notes, Zero Dock Street, the restaurant in Carthage is now open. There's right along the river, Black River. Looks like it's a nice facility. I haven't been able to go over to eat there yet, and then the other thing is there was a developer looking to put pedal cars in Lowville and Carthage, and he has moved his locomotive into the Village of Lowville, and he is in the process of buying the depot in Carthage and working with Sarah Bullock with the town of Wilna on potential grant funding to look at do an assessment of the building and what needs to be done to that depot in Carthage. I believe he's already bought the old train stations and stuff there in Lowville, and he's bought Memories restaurant too. So things are starting to move a little bit right now on that front too. So I guess that's it.
I drove by Memories a couple weeks ago, and man, they're really hauling. I mean, there were dumpsters and they were full. It looked like he's really doing a complete rehab.
Yes. Yep. There are.
Paul, I see you're on here twice and you're muted.
I think that'll take care of that. I just wanted to dial in on the second session for my section of the agenda. You could see my my face. The other computer is set up without it, just with a microphone. Well, as one would expect, all the towns are going into budget season right now. They've all been working on their budget estimates and their department requests and in the process of putting their tentative budgets together now. So that's a major item on everybody's agenda, all the towns anyway. With the individual municipalities, I'll just mention a couple. First is since, Cleveland, as I'm sure you've heard, has finished up their dock improvement project. I haven't been down there recently to get pictures of the final version, but that's looking good when I've been down there. And they did have a 9/11 ceremony, although it wasn't at the docks, it was at the gazebo, but they were one of the communities in this area that did a 9/11 ceremony because their gazebo in downtown Cleveland has several things on it that connect it with 9/11 and remembering 9/11. So that was a nice ceremony. It was fairly brief. It was a beautiful day and it was well attended. So that was a success all around, I'd say. A couple of my communities have been running into difficulties recently. Of course, things have been difficult in parish. There have been some personality conflicts and some conflicts having to do with envisioning the towns and villages' future as pertains to water. They now are going to be having a referendum to have the citizens of the proposed water district reaffirm that they do want to continue to move forward on it at the new and higher cost estimate that they got since they they started under this process again, changing engineers who came up with a higher, a significantly higher cost proposal or cost estimate. Their most recent one comes in right around the comptroller's guideline, and as years go on, by the time they actually start doing the project, I imagine the comptroller's guideline on that will be higher, and they should be able to accomplish it within that guideline. But several of the councilmen are wondering whether the people can afford it and whether it's a good idea to go forward at that higher level. So they are having another referendum. Also, there's been some internal conflict on the board, and I will report to you that last Thursday's meeting, several of the board members proposed that the town get a comptroller because they weren't satisfied with their current bookkeeper. They wanted things from the bookkeeper that actually the bookkeeper could have provided if she had been asked, but hadn't been, and the supervisor asked that that be asked of the bookkeeper. If they wanted it, then ask and she can come to the meetings, but instead they decided to go ahead with wanting a comptroller for the town. Two problems with that: they're a town of the second class, so you have to be a town of the first class, or you have to have a population of over 40,000, and they don't have that either, so they can't have a comptroller. However, the effect of that has been that when the bookkeeper found out that that was in essence a vote of no confidence in the bookkeeper quit. So right at the beginning of budget season, and when payrolls need to be done, when they brought the payroll function back in-house, because that was something that the bookkeeper could do, they are without a bookkeeper at this time. The other community that's having some problems is the town of Albion. There's developed a personality conflict there between one of the board members and two of the other board members. The fourth board member is, last time I heard, was in the hospital, and his prospects for recovery to be able to attend a town board meeting were uncertain. So that leaves the supervisor and the two town councilmen who disagree with the other town councilman did not attend the last town board meeting. So they couldn't do any business. They had the supervisor and the one town councilman, and they couldn't even pay bills. So that situation is up in the air again on how they're going to proceed. So there have been some challenges in North Shore and Salmon Rivers recently, and not easily resolved, I'm afraid. And I guess that's all I have to report right now. Other than to note that if things were better, if we were in better times, we would be meeting in Central Square today. So I miss seeing all of you in Central Square.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Jan, you're muted.
Finance report.
Yeah, wanted to make sure I wasn't jumping the gun. So you have both a closeout financial statement from the fiscal year 1920 in your email, and current year financial statement. So first, the closeout financial statement from 1920. You'll see lots of detail there. The bottom line is that our total expenses for the year were a little over $1 million. Keep in mind there was some extra funding last year with the Complete Streets grant that we were working on, but it was significantly less than what we have available to us, even considering cash ceilings. So we've always careful with funding, and even in last year's closeout shows that. You also have a financial statement for as of Friday. We do have some expenses that have not made it through the process in Albany of SFS, and as you've heard in the press, there's very much a slowdown on processes and DOB with some approvals and that kind of thing, and we're experiencing that to some extent ourselves. But our salary line to date, we're at 373 and change. We've expended about 43% of our adopted budget salary expenses. we've been being very frugal on our non-salary expenses. You can see detail on all those in the report. But the one thing we went over a little bit on interagency services, which is by $200. It was a pretty low number to begin with. And we've had to date a little over $900 in COVID expenses. Albany has asked us to code those extra things we're buying in terms of cleaning items or technology to allow us to do remote meetings. So we're a little under 1,000 there. But
Katie, I don't have it right in front of me, but just to explain, I can't remember if I explained that, excuse me, that interagency expense. I'm not sure what that dollar amount is. Is it 500 on the report?
It's where'd it go? Yeah, we've spent 500 and
okay,
we had budgeted 300.
Okay, that whole 500 is an amount that we pay to for archives. That all went to archives for us just to have the capability to. It's a required amount each year now that we have to pay to New York State Office of Archives.
We send down all of our, reports that we put out through the year. They have to have a certain number of copies to keep on file as an archive. So you'll see though lots of the costs are down because we're still not traveling very much, are doing much at all for meetings. So I'd be happy to have myself or Felicia answer any questions for you, but that's where we're at.
Okay. Move right in. Any public comment? Any commissioners have any comments or questions?
I see Jerry joined us, so I wanted to note Jerry's here. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning, Jerry.
You're muted if you want to say anything.
Sorry, I missed everything. It's a doctor we've postponed 3 times, and you just can't do it anymore. But every appointment takes so much longer now because you have to go through all the steps. But
just think, Jerry, if you want to, this afternoon we'll have this posted on YouTube, and you could watch the whole thing.
Oh,
it's riveting.
I'll wait till tonight when I can't sleep. Did I miss anything? It's really urgent that.
I do want to just mention, because Larry, I'm seeing your, I do that all the time. It says Larry, so I'm going to call you Larry now. Jerry, the broadband project, we made progress finally on Friday with Oneida County. Okay. So that is a positive thing. So I don't need you to weigh in with Steve Smith now. And I can follow up more with you offline, but it looks like Oneida County is going to get looped in with Central New York's analysis.
Jerry, also in your absence, we
go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I got another topic. Just okay. What were you saying?
I know I'm probably on some committee then, since I wasn't here.
You are. That's probably what
I knew it. Okay. I had talked to Steve Smith briefly. He said once the word got out that they were in charge of that money for the CARES Act, they had been swamped with requests right away. So his office staff is limited, but usually he's pretty good about getting back to you. So, all right. So am I on the nominating committee?
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. That'll teach me.
Clairvoyant.
That's it.
Okay.
Any word?
Any other comments?
When John Holt will be appointed, or is it still?
It was a 4-month hold, which I guess technically probably has expired, but there's no new word from budget about being able to do any of that. So I may reach out because I need to ask about Matt's promotion. That still hasn't been processed either. So maybe when I reach out on that, they'll give me some more information overall about personnel.
All right. Okay. And I presume Mike is also on the nominating committee?
No,
Who is it? Tom?
Yep, and Leona.
Tom and Leona. Same team as one last year, or 2 years ago.
All right.
Oh, and Jerry, another thing that was mentioned is that Harlan has told us officially that he's not going to renew his contract at the end of the year.
Okay.
So Lisa is on board for the rest of this year, and then hopefully we'll renew in 2021. And NOCOG is looking for an additional associate circuit rider, so there'd be 3, and it would be Lisa, John, and someone new. And I had another thought on that. I just lost it.
When during the retreat, Jean had mentioned a few names to me that had approached her.
Yeah.
So maybe I think I knew most of them. So maybe Jean and I can talk a little bit more if that would be helpful.
Yeah, let's talk afterwards, or I can call you or something.
Okay.
And NOCOG did decide to reduce their dues by half for this coming year.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Any other comments or any other statements, questions? Katie, next meeting is?
Yeah, I had a mistake
October
on that.
15th?
It's October 19th.
Yeah.
It would be in
Yeah.
Williamstown, but I don't know if you guys are going to want to still keep doing virtual or whatever you want to do.
I think I'm fine with another virtual. Unless somebody else has any comments about that.
Well, I like seeing everybody, but it doesn't make much difference to me, but I do enjoy getting together with you guys, so.
Yep. We'll just keep making progress then. If there's nothing else, then do I have a motion to adjourn?
So adjourned.
Okay.
I heard a bunch of voices there. I think we're all set until the 19th. Thank
Give it to Bill and
everyone for your
Tom.
time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah,
Thanks. Have a good day.
nice job.
Where did you
Bye,
say the
everyone.
meeting would be? If we have it in person?
It's your place. No.
It was
Wait.
scheduled for Williamstown. But
Okay. All right.
more to come.
Have a good week, everybody.
All right.
Yep, you too. Thanks now. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.